The doorbell snapped at 10 a.m., not the polite kind, more like a demand. I opened my door in pajamas, coffee still warm in my hand, and my mother was standing in my doorway with new keys shining in her palm, behind her. A locksmith shifted his weight beside a van that rumbled at the curb, exhaust mixing with the smell of my coffee. "We're giving this house to your sister. She needs it more," Mom said. I heard myself ask. "The house I bought with my $150,000 down payment." Dad laughed. "Family homes belong to the family, not you." The sheriff behind me cleared his throat. "Actually, ma'am, county records show—" My mother didn't wait for permission. She stepped past me like the doorway belonged to her, heels clicking across my hardwood floors. She opened my kitchen cabinets one by one, peering inside like she was taking inventory, nodding to herself as if she were already planning where Chloe's things would go. The morning light spilled across the counters, too bright for how wrong everything felt. The locksmith hovered near the door, eyes darting between us. He looked uncomfortable, like he knew this wasn't a normal Saturday job. Outside, his van idled, the low rumble steady and impatient. "This makes sense," Mom said, gesturing around my living room. "Chloe's starting a family. She needs space." "You don't." She said it calmly, like she was explaining a weather report. I set my coffee down before my hand betrayed me. My fingers were clenched so tight the ceramic creaked. Dad walked in behind her, already dressed for a day out. Polo tucked in, sunglasses resting on his head. He looked annoyed, not at the situation, but at the delay. "Let's not turn this into a scene," he said. "We're just handling things, handling what I asked." Mom waved a hand. "We have power of attorney. We'll take care of the logistics." The word hit like a slap. "Power of attorney," said casually, like a spell she expected to work just because she'd said it out loud. The locksmith cleared his throat. "Ma'am, before I can change any locks, I'll need proof of ownership." Mom's smile tightened. "I'm her mother." "That's not what I asked," he said, gently, but firm. Dad stepped forward. We helped with the paperwork. "This is a family home." I felt my throat dry out, but my voice stayed level. "Did you see a deed?" I asked the locksmith. "Anything with their names on it?" He shook his head. "No." "Ma'am." Mom shot me a look. "You're being dramatic." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I'd learned a long time ago that emotion was the lever they used against me. Instead, I stepped back, pulled my phone from my pocket, and glanced once more at my parents standing in my house like they already owned it. "Okay," I said quietly. "Then we'll do this the right way." I tapped out a single message, sent it, and slipped my phone away, behind me. The house was suddenly very still. A few nights earlier, we were sitting around my parents' dining table, the kind of dinner that pretends to be normal if you don't listen too closely. The AC hummed too loud. Someone's fork scraped a plate. My mom wore her good perfume, the one she saves for holidays and announcements. I was halfway through chewing when I heard it. "Well?" "We helped with the paperwork," she said casually, not even looking at me. "So the house is really a family asset anyway." Chloe laughed. "Light and careless." Exactly. No one asked if I was okay with that sentence. No one paused to see if I'd heard it. They didn't need to. In that family, silence had always meant consent. I didn't argue at the table. I didn't storm out. I drove home and sat in my car for a full minute, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then I went inside, kicked off my shoes, and opened my laptop. Facts first. I checked my credit score. Still solid. I pulled up my mortgage payments. Month after month, paid on time. I looked at my bills, my records, every confirmation I'd saved without thinking twice over the years. I opened the county site and searched my address. One name came up. Mine. No co-owner, no co-signer, no family asset, just me. My chest tightened, not with relief, but with something colder, because that meant something else was true, too. They weren't confused. They weren't mistaken. They were planning to take something that wasn't theirs and counting on me not stopping them. The next morning, I scheduled a quick consultation with an attorney, not to sue anyone, just to understand my options if things escalated. Words like illegal eviction and trespass came up. Cease and desist, documentation. I also called someone I trusted from years back, someone who knew how civil disputes actually played out when people crossed lines and pretended they hadn't. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't need to. By the time I closed my laptop, the house was quiet. Too quiet. That's when it hit me. They weren't betting on the law. They were betting on me doing what I'd always done. Staying quiet, staying reasonable, staying small, and for the first time, I knew exactly how wrong that bet was. It's hard to explain what it does to you when you grow up as the stable one, the kid who doesn't cause problems, the kid who understands. You get praised for being easy, and you don't notice the trap until you're an adult and everyone's still treating you like your needs are optional. When Chloe needed a car, she called me crying about how she couldn't get to work, how mom and dad were stressed, how it would only be temporary. I remember standing in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, staring at my own pantry like maybe the cereal boxes would tell me what the right thing was. I sent her $13,000. She promised she'd pay it back as soon as things settle. Things never settled. They never do for someone who's always being rescued. After that, it became smaller asks that stacked into one big weight. Can you cover this? Can you spot her just this once? A few hundred here, a couple thousand there. I didn't even feel it at first because I was working, building my life, trying to be grateful. Then one night I added it up out of curiosity and my stomach flipped. Around $50,000. Gone into Chloe's emergencies that were always somehow more urgent than my plans. When Chloe got engaged, my mom talked about her wedding like it was the Super Bowl. Venues, flowers, dresses. I heard the number $60,000 said out loud like it was obvious, like it was the natural order of things. I made one comment, just one. That's a lot. Dad laughed, not a big laugh, a short one. Sharp, like I'd told a joke I didn't understand. You worry too much, he said. It's Chloe. That laugh became a sound I could feel in my ribs. It showed up in every moment I tried to push back. Every time I asked for fairness. Every time I needed something and got told, "You're independent." And Mom had her own move. Tears, a tremble in her voice. "How can you be so cold?" she'd whisper, like my boundaries were cruelty. So I learned to swallow everything. I learned to be the one who makes it smooth, the one who keeps the peace. But sitting at my parents' table hearing my house called a family asset, I finally understood the real job they'd assigned me. They didn't raise a daughter, they raised a backup plan. The day I bought the house, the signing room smelled like toner and stale breath mints. The AC was turned up too high, the kind of cold that makes you keep rubbing your palms together like you're trying to start a fire. The table was polished wood, slick under my fingertips. Every time I shifted in the chair, it squeaked like it was complaining. I remember my mom smoothing my sleeve like I was a kid on the first day of school. "We're so proud," she said. But her eyes weren't on me. They were on the folder. Dad kept checking his watch. "How long is this going to take?" he muttered. Already irritated, like my biggest milestone was an inconvenience to his afternoon. I had $150,000 ready for the down payment. I'd saved. I'd planned. I'd turned down trips and upgrades and anything that would mess with my debt to income. I'd protected my credit score like it was a living thing. I didn't drain my retirement accounts. I didn't borrow from anyone. I did it the way adults do when they know no one's coming to catch them. When the loan officer slid the papers across, I read every line. Not because I'm paranoid, because I've seen what happens when people treat your life like a group project. My name was the one on the mortgage. My name was the one on the deed. No co-signer listed, no co-owner. Just me. Dad got bored halfway through and went to wait in the car. Mom followed, saying she had dinner reservations and couldn't sit through all this paperwork. They didn't sign anything. They didn't have to. Later. Though, that story changed. It became, we helped with the paperwork. It became, we were there. It became, family homes belong to the family. It was clever in a lazy way. They didn't need the truth. They needed a version that sounded familiar enough to guilt me into compliance. Standing in that freezing room, I thought I was building something for myself. I thought I was finally stepping out of the role they'd written for me. I didn't realize they were already picturing the house as a trophy they could hand to Chloe the moment she wanted it. So when my mom showed up in Austin with new keys, it wasn't impulsive. It was the next step. Sheriff Miller didn't stomp up my walkway like a movie hero. He just walked, calm, steady, the kind of presence that makes everyone else suddenly remember there are rules. The locksmith actually looked relieved when he saw him. My mom's face did that quick shift she's perfected confusion, then irritation, then a polite smile she doesn't mean. "Morning," Sheriff Miller said. Voice even. "I got a call about a property dispute. It's a family matter." Mom rushed in. "My daughter is being unreasonable. She's refusing to relocate so her sister can have a proper home." Sheriff Miller's eyes flicked to me, then to the locksmith. "Sir, did they provide proof of ownership?" The locksmith shook his head. "No, sir. They said they were her parents and needed the locks changed." Mom's smile tightened. "I'm her mother. I have power of attorney." I didn't even blink this time. "No, you don't." Dad stepped forward like he was used to winning arguments by standing closer. "We helped with the paperwork. This is a family home." Sheriff Miller didn't match his energy. He just asked, "Do you have the deed? Any document showing you own this property?" Silence. Mom waved her hand like paperwork was a nuisance. "We were at the signing." "You drove me," I said, keeping my voice flat. "Then you waited outside." Dad scoffed. "Trying to recover control." We co-signed. I walked to my home office and came back with a plain folder. Nothing dramatic. Just the boring stuff that changes everything: payments, bills, records I'd kept without thinking because that's what you do when you're the only one paying attention. I handed them to Sheriff Miller. He scanned them, then looked at my parents. "The county records show one name on the deed," he said. Then he cleared his throat, just like he'd been doing it for years before delivering bad news in a calm voice. "Actually, ma'am, county records show this house belongs to Belinda. No co-owners listed." My mom's mouth opened like she wanted to argue with the air. Dad's face drained a shade. "That can't be right." "It is," Sheriff Miller said. "This is her private residence. You don't have authority to change locks, remove her, or claim ownership. If you remain on the property after being told to leave, that can become trespassing." Mom grabbed Dad's arm. "She wouldn't actually do that. She's our daughter." I looked at all three of them, my parents and the locksmith caught in the middle, and I felt something I didn't expect. Not guilt. Clarity. "I'm not pressing charges today," I said. "But you're leaving, and you're not coming back without an invitation." Dad's jaw tightened. "Fine. Enjoy being alone." Sheriff Miller nodded toward the driveway. "I'm going to suggest you go now." They left. Fast. Like speed could rewrite reality. The van pulled away. The air went quiet again, but it didn't feel peaceful yet. It felt like the first clean breath after holding one in for years. The first thing I did after they left wasn't dramatic. I didn't collapse. I didn't scream into a pillow. I stood at my front door and watched the street like my body was waiting for the old panic to rush in and punish me for setting a boundary. It didn't. Sheriff Miller stayed long enough to write notes and take a few photos for a report, not because he wanted to make it a spectacle, but because he knew how people like my parents operated. They rewrite, they recruit, they claim they were just trying to help. Facts keep you from getting dragged into their story. When he left, my house felt different. Same walls, same couch, same sunlight on the floor. But the air wasn't theirs anymore. Over the next few weeks, they tried to get it back. Not the house, the control. My brother texted that I was tearing the family apart. My aunt called with that soft voice people use when they think guilt is kindness. Chloe posted online about her heartless sister who cared more about property than family. I didn't reply. I documented every message, every uninvited attempt to show up, every time someone tried to talk me out of my own reality. My attorney sent a cease and desist, simple language, clear boundary, the kind of letter that doesn't argue feelings, just behavior. It didn't stop them immediately, but it changed the tone. They realized there was a paper trail now, that the next escalation wouldn't be a phone call, it would be consequences. I changed my locks with my own locksmith. I installed a security system. At night, the little light by my front door blinked green, steady as a heartbeat. The only set of keys that mattered sat in a bowl by my entryway, and every time I heard them clink, it felt like proof. A couple months later, I moved into a higher role at work, and my pay jumped in a way that made my old self want to apologize for succeeding. Instead, I ordered takeout from my favorite place, poured a glass of wine, and ate on my couch in total silence. No tension, no performance, just me. Word got back that Chloe's engagement didn't survive the truth of her finances. Around $80,000 in credit card debt has a way of cutting through wedding fantasy fast. My parents bought her a small condo after that. She complained it wasn't good enough. Of course she did. I didn't feel happy about it. I didn't feel sad. I felt detached, like watching someone else's mess through a window I'd finally closed. My mother still tells people I abandoned the family over a house. She can keep that line. I kept the truth. My house isn't just property. It's the first place where my no actually held. Watching this story unfold, it's hard not to feel two things at once: deep empathy for the woman who finally drew a line, and a quieter, uncomfortable sympathy for the people who crossed it. In many families, betrayal doesn't start as evil. It starts as a habit favoring the loudest child, rescuing the messiest one, and treating the responsible one like an endless savings account. Over time, entitlement becomes normal, and family turns into a permission slip. Still, none of that makes it right. The main character didn't explode, didn't threaten, didn't try to humiliate anyone. She did the hardest, most adult thing. She stayed calm, leaned on facts, and protected her home with clear boundaries. That's a powerful lesson. Your peace is not a group project, and love doesn't require you to hand over your autonomy. For the ones who betrayed her, the lesson is just as sharp: guilt is not a substitute for respect. And if you keep rewarding irresponsibility, you'll eventually raise someone who expects the world to bend. And honestly, if I were in that situation, I can't promise I'd stay as civilized as she did. I'd probably make a huge scene. That's pretty much for today. Good night and see you next time.
Watching this story unfold, it's hard not to feel two things at once: deep empathy for the woman who finally drew a line, and a quieter, uncomfortable sympathy for the people who crossed it. In many families, betrayal doesn't start at evil. It starts at habit, favoring the loudest child, rescuing the messiest one, and treating the responsible one like an endless at saving accounts. Over time, entitlement becomes normal, and family turns into permission slip. Still, none of that makes it right. The main character didn't explode, didn't threaten, didn't try to humiliate anyone. She did the hardest, most adult thing. She stayed calm, leaned on facts, and protected her home with clear boundaries. That's a powerful lesson. Your peace is not a group project, and love doesn't require you to hand over your autonomy. For the ones who betrayed her, the lesson is just as sharp. Guilt is not the subtitle for respect, and if you keep rewarding irresponsibility, you'll eventually raise someone who respects the word to bend. And honestly, if I were in that situation, I can't promise I'd stay as civilized as she did. I'd probably make a huge scene. That's pretty much for today. Good night and see you next time.